on out. We got other things to focus on. The discussion from the Trump administration was they want to have a refocusing on China. The U.S. military is not going to get pulled into this four wars thing. We know what the CCP is doing, and we're not going to do it. We're going to take our military, focus it on China. That's the message from the president. And now in the latest, while the United States is even asking its regional allies in the Asia Pacific, are they prepared for a potential war with the Chinese Communist Party? This is Japanese. We get to say this. They say the U.S. Defense Department has called on Japan and Australia to clarify what roles they would play in the event of China's military aggression against Taiwan. Very diplomatic way of saying war, right? As Financial Times reported in its Sunday edition Saturday. It notes as well the Pentagon has made the request in working level talks with these two allies, according to the British paper, and the U.S. side is apparently trying to strengthen deterrence through burden sharing with Japan and Australia. Specifically, it says Elbridge Colby, U.S. Under Secretary of Defense for Policy, and the number 3 official of the department took up the issue with recent talks with Japanese and Australian defense officials. It notes as well an informed source in Japan said the United States is working with the two countries on concrete operation plans and exercises in case of an emergency over Taiwan. In case of an emergency over Taiwan, what could that emergency be? What they're saying here is if the Chinese Communist Party does in fact attack Taiwan. And just like Taiwan, they've also been holding their own live fire drills, also preparing for potential war. Wall Street Journal said, in the rugged hills outside this coastal city, Japanese and Australian artillery crews fired in tandem on a distant target. They were assisted by U.S. Marines who were embedded with the Australian gun teams. The live fire drill was the culmination of Southern Jackaroo, an expanded annual exercise in the Australian bush in which the three nations' forces practiced working together as allies. It says, although top officials did not call out any foe by name, troops taking part said it was clear that they were training to fight China, the CCP. And it's actually not even just the U.S., Japan, Australia either. India, they're also part of the Quad Alliance with these three countries. That's a defense alliance. But also the Philippines, even Vietnam, actually. Other countries are kind of in the orbit of it, maybe a good way to put it. And the Philippines, they're also getting more directly involved. They're even working with Taiwan right now to defend against the CCP. Washington Post said, faced with intensifying Chinese encroachment at sea, the Philippines increasingly sees its national security as intertwined with that of Taiwan and is quietly ramping up both formal and informal engagement with the self-governing island, including on security, according to government officials, defense analysts, and diplomats here. It says this marks a significant departure from Manila, that's the capital, of course, of the Philippines, Manila's conservative approach toward Taiwan, and could pave the way for the Philippines, a U.S. treaty ally. If they were to get attacked, the U.S. has a treaty where we'd have to defend them. To play a bigger role, it says, if China makes good on its threats to invade Taiwan. And they say, quote, any forced projection of China within our area is a matter of extreme concern. Philippine Defense Secretary Gilbert Teodoro said in an interview on Thursday. And look, also, aside from Philippines having more of a defensive agreement with Taiwan, Japan does too. And while the U.S. won't really clarify, would you defend Taiwan in the event of a war, it's kind of understood that it probably would happen. And again, part of that is because of the defensive agreement we have with both the Philippines and Japan. And if they defend it, so will we. That's kind of the tentacles and how they go out on these things. Also on the U.S. side, we're seeing that war has yet again changed. War has changed. And the Pentagon, they're now preparing for drone dominance. I'll be talking more about this after a quick break.
The greatest threat facing the United States is the CCP.
The Epoch Times investigation team had studied the CCP for years, but what we uncovered was yielding evidence beyond our imagination.
With Chairman Mao, with the Prime Minister, our talks have been characterized by frankness.
The Clinton administration said, oh, don't worry about it. This will be a poison pill for China.
China's strategic goal is to make sure that the U.S. has four enemies: and one of them must be a terrorist group.
We are giving up our life's blood so that the Chinese Communist Party can survive and thrive.
To carry out these operations.
You get influential people in another country, in your target area, to do what you want and to create these narratives that suit the Chinese communists.
If you can persuade the media persuades the public drives the political action.
This is a blueprint. This is a blueprint for how the CCP can weaponize our media, our government, our legal system to go after any company or any group they want to.
It's really gone global, political warfare has, in a way that, quite frankly, we've never seen.
As tensions grow with the Chinese Communist Party, the definition of war is beginning to change. Now, we can watch what's happening now between Russia and Ukraine. Drones are now becoming the main weapons of war, and the United States is taking notice. But, well, we have a problem as a country. The big problem is we make the big drones. We make the Predator drones. We make those ones. But we don't really make the smaller ones, the common ones we're seeing on the battlefields right now. And even for police, that's a problem. They have to buy Chinese-made drones if they want to use them for policing. Same with military. And if you're buying Chinese-made drones for your defense, that's not a winning strategy, let's put it that way. And while there's a problem with that, that could be soon changing. Because the United States is moving to, right now, mass produce its own small drones. And the announcement on this was actually made by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Watch.
You know what? We know why we were put here. We were brought here to rebuild the military, match capabilities to the threats of today. So while our adversaries have produced millions of cheap drones, before us, we were mired in bureaucratic red tape. Not anymore. In June, President Trump issued an executive order unleashing American drone dominance to bolster our drone industry and arm our warfighters, because that's what we're all about. So today I'm rescinding restrictive policies that stifle production, and this will unleash American manufacturing and the ingenuity of our warfighters by doing three key things. First, we're going to bolster the U.S. drone manufacturing base by producing thousands of American-made products, prioritizing Buy American. We'll arm combat units with a variety of low-cost, American-crafted drones, leveraging our world-leading engineers and AI experts. And third, we're going to train as we expect to fight. Senior officers, I'll grab this. Here's the memo. Senior officers must overcome bureaucratic risk aversion in budgeting, weaponeering, and training. So here's the memo we're signing today, delivered via drones. Here on the front lawn of the Pentagon, with some of our great warfighters flying them. This is the future. We're in the fight. We're in the fight to win it, and we're never going to back down.
There you go. The future of war is here, and it's probably going to be the future of a lot of other programs as well. From policing, police are now moving to drones a lot. Product deliveries, copper deliveries for homeless people looking to loot them, and so on. And alongside that also, there's a movement to make sure that foreign drones are not posing a threat to Americans. We don't really want these Chinese Communist Party drones being the basis of our military defense and policing, right? And so there's a big focus on this initiative. Representative Elise Stefanik, Republican from New York, also said that Chinese communist drones represent a significant risk to U.S. national security today. And they're saying with the House Committee on the CCP and House Intel Committee, they said, I asked the Office of the Director of National Intelligence to expedite a national security review of Chinese drone manufacturers. Representative Stefanik said, I will continue to lead the effort in Congress to expand U.S. drone manufacturing. So you have right here a Pentagon program and Congress, again, a few different branches of it, taking action right now. Now, speaking of the CCP threat also, I spoke about this at Turning Point. This was over the weekend. I was actually at the Student Action Summit down in Florida, And during that, I raised my own concerns about how the Chinese Communist Party is infiltrating the United States and even infiltrating U.S. government agencies. I do think the true battle in this world is between freedom and socialism, and the way that manifests right now in front of our eyes is the battle between the free world and the communist world, and that battle is defined as the United States against the Chinese Communist Party. So thank you very much. I won't show the whole video. I spoke for about 9 minutes, but in that, I tied together a lot of what we've been watching happening with the Chinese Communist Party targeting the United States. The issue with the farmland, what's really going on with that? What about all these Chinese spies who've been arrested? I show the common links between all of this and explain exactly what they're doing. If you want to watch my whole speech at Turning Point, I have it posted on my X account, pinned at the top actually. You can find that on X at Josh J. Phillip if you want to watch it. Now, on another topic, though, something we've also discussed might happen is yet again happening. The US dollar is losing some of its international value. Wall Street Journal said this: American tourists have grown accustomed to their dollar traveling well, too. This summer, they are getting a wake-up call. The ICE US Dollar Index, which compares the US currency to a basket of 6 others, just posted its worst half of the year in more than 50 years. The dollar has tumbled 13% against the euro this year and 6% against the Japanese yen. It is a stark reversal, it says, of the conditions that greeted American travelers and investors as recently as 2024, when a strong dollar lifted their purchasing power on imported goods, triggering a travel boom and fueled talk of America's economic dynamism. But it was before the Trump administration's trade policies, concerns over the growing national debt, and the shrinking gap between interest rates in the U.S. and other major economies began to weigh on the dollar. Sounds terrible, right? It might not be. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? It's going to depend on who you ask and also what their financial interests are. If you're dealing with people in like international business, they might not like it so much, especially investors. In my opinion, though, I think this was the intent. I think it's what they wanted. I think this is exactly what they need to bring back American manufacturing. Let me explain. It is actually known that an effect of tariffs is a devaluation of the currency. If you put tariffs in place, it will devalue your currency. The United States has dealt for a very long time with other countries devaluing their currencies. It actually is great for them. It's not good for us, but it's great for them. The Chinese Communist Party very often devalues the yuan. You can go and read many articles on how they're doing, currency manipulation, they call it. Japan actually did this. It was one of the things that really impacted the stock markets, especially like post-COVID. And in the financial spheres, they were criticized for it. It was great for them. It was bad for a lot of other markets. It makes it so it's easier to move business there if that does happen, right? It makes them more competitive on the global market. It makes the people whose currencies don't devalue less competitive. And in other words, this was expected. It is known that if Trump were to put tariffs in place, it would devalue the US dollar. The issue with currency manipulation is you can't just devalue your currency. I mean, you can. Other countries do it, but it doesn't look good, and they might go after you. But you can devalue it through other means, like tariffs, for example. And while this does mean the US dollar is not going to go as far in some countries, it's actually really significant with something very important, and that thing is manufacturing. Bringing back American manufacturing. Because what does it mean if the US dollar is devalued? It means the United States is going to be more competitive on low costs when companies look for a place to manufacture. One of the reasons why we put our factories in Indonesia and Vietnam and China and Mexico is because it's cheaper, right? If you use the US dollar, it goes further. If you want to, the amount of money you'd have to pay one person here, you could hire like 3, 4, 5 people in another country. And it's because the currency goes further. Their currency is devalued. And if you want to bring factories to the United States, the problem you have here is the high cost of manufacturing. If you've devalued your currency, it costs less to manufacture, meaning the US will become more competitive on that market. And personally, I think that's why they did it. I think that's exactly what they want. Again, nothing scandalous, but this does mean that the US will become more competitive when they're trying to bring factories back to the United States. Well, everyone, that's all for tonight. Thank you for joining us. And as always, please take care of yourselves, stay informed, stay free.